Hello everyone, and welcome to today's edition of Daf Yomi, Daf Bava Kamma. Hope you're doing well, and let's go. Just following on from the last Daf, as it was taught in the Tosefta Bava Batra 2.4, that Rabbi Yossi said when Father Halafta went to study Torah with Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, some say that he said when Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri went to study Torah with Father Halafta, we said to him the following in the course of the discussion of the halachot of possession. If one had been in possession of real estate for 3 years, this serves as proof of his claim that he is the legal owner. One who is able to prove uninterrupted possession for the necessary period is not required to produce documentary evidence of legal title to the property. Rabbi Yonatan ben Nuri of Father Halafta said, if one harvested and ate, Hared she'achala. In Tractate Bava Batra 28a, it is explained that if one uses a field for 3 years unchallenged, his claim of possession is accepted. This use is often referred to by the Gemara as eating its produce. The Tanaim in this Braita disagree over whether the same set of units must attest to all 3 years of use. The produce of a field and that he claimed as his own the first year of the 3 years required for establishing possession of the land in the presence of 2 witnesses, and subsequently ate the produce of the second year in the presence of 2 other witnesses, and finally ate the produce of the third year in the presence of yet another 2 witnesses. What are the halacha? If one ate the produce the first year, etc., if 2 witnesses testify that one has eaten the produce of a field over the course of a year, and 2 other witnesses testify the same concerning the following year, and 2 other witnesses testify the same with regard to the third year, all these testimonies combine and he has established presumptive ownership of the field. And according to the opinion of the rabbis, Rama Sefer Softim, Hilchot Edu 21.7, Torah Choshen Mishpat 38. Rabbi Halafta said to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, or vice versa, this is considered to establish presumptive ownership by the one who ate the produce. The other sage said to him, I too say that this is so, but Rabbi Akiva disputes this matter. As Rabbi Akiva would say, the Torah requires that witnesses must testify with regard to a complete matter and not part of a matter. Since there must be testimony concerning consumption of the produce over 3 years, and each set of witnesses established only that it took place for 1 year, their separate testimonies do not combine. If so, the mission is apparently not in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Akiva. The Gemara rejects this assertion. Abai said, you can even say that the mission is according to the opinion of Rabbi Akiva. Doesn't Rabbi Akiva concede that in a case where 2 witnesses say so-and-so is betrothed, the commentators disagree over the precise details of this case. Some claim that 2 witnesses attest to the fact that a certain man has betrothed this woman, after which 2 other witnesses testify that another man engaged in intercourse with her. The issue before the court is whether the woman and the second man are liable to receive punishment for adultery. That's the Rashi and the Midrash. The Rashi questions this explanation, claiming that it is dissimilar to the case of the Mishnah. He explained that it's referring to a case where 2 witnesses testify that the woman has been betrothed, which is the first step of the marriage process, while the second set of witnesses testifies that the husband has consummated the marriage through sexual intercourse. The issue is whether the woman is fully married or only betrothed, with all the halachic implications that this distinction entails. A certain woman and 2 other witnesses say someone else subsequently engages in sexual intercourse with that same woman. This is proof that the act of intercourse was adulterous. The reason for this is that even though the witnesses testifying about the intercourse require the witnesses who testify about the betrothal, the testimony of the second witness is meaningless for the testimony of the first witnesses. Nevertheless, since the witnesses testify about the betrothal do not require the witnesses who testify about the intercourse, their testimony by itself establishes halachic status. We call the testimony of each pair a complete matter. Here too, the same logic applies in the case of a thief who steals an animal and subsequently stores or sells it. Even though the witnesses who testify about the slaughter require the testimony of the witnesses about the theft in order for their testimony to have any halachic significance, since the witnesses testifying about the theft do not require the testimony of the witnesses who testify about the slaughter, as the testimony alone establishes that person as a thief who is liable to pay the double matter, we call the testimony of each pair a complete matter. The Gemara asks, and according to the opinion of the rabbis who disagree with Rabbi Akiva that the Torah stipulates that testimony must be about a matter, not half of a matter, the term matter in Deuteronomy 19:15 serves to exclude what? The Gemara answers, it serves to exclude a case involving testimony that a girl has reached majority, in which one witness said that he saw one hair on her lower back. The attainment of majority is determined for both boys and girls through the growth of 2 pubic hairs. When I say the person in question would be examined by those of their own sex. They need the 48b and the Mishkan and Yaakov, Evan Ezra 42. In this case, one witness testified to the existence of one hair in a particular spot, while the other testified about one hair in a different location. If one witness testified to the existence of a single pubic hair and another testifies that a child has a second one, this does not constitute a full testimony that establishes the child in question has reached majority. Rabbi Sefer Shov to Mehochat Edut for 7 Shulchan Aruch Mitzvah 13. And one witness says that he saw one hair on the lower abdomen. Since the 2 hairs that testify to a person's majority are pubic hairs, terms back and abdomen are understood as euphemism for various regions in the pubic area. It is also possible that the terms refer to the witness's position relative to the girl when they saw the hairs. A girl is considered to reach majority when she has 2 pubic hairs. In this case, 2 witnesses separately testify that they have each seen one hair, and therefore each testimony is halachically meaningless on its own. The rabbis derive from the verse that these testimonies do not combine. The Gemara raises a difficulty. In this case, each testimony is obviously invalid, as it is half a matter and also half a testimony. Not only does each testimony refer to one hair, which is half a matter, it is submitted by one witness, which is half a testimony. Consequently, it is obvious that the girl is not considered of age in this case. The Gemara therefore rejects this explanation. Rather, the rabbis maintain that the term matter serves to exclude a case in which 2 witnesses say that one hair on a girl's back and 2 other witnesses say that they saw one hair on a lower abdomen. If 2 witnesses testify to the existence of a single pubic hair on a child, and 2 other witnesses testify to the existence of a second hair, it is not proof the child is of age, as each set of witnesses testimony about half a matter. Rama Sefer showed him Hilchot Edut for 7 Shulchan Aruch Mishpat 122:6. In this case, the testimony of either set of witnesses concerns only one hair, and therefore these witnesses are essentially saying that she is still a minor, and those witnesses saying that she is still a minor. Hanay Ame Katanahi. Although each account is a valid testimony, it is considered half a matter, since each set of witnesses testified about a matter of no halachic significance by itself. The difference between this case and that of the 3 sets of witnesses who testify to one's use of a field for 1 year each, which is not considered half a matter in the opinion of the rabbis, is not immediately evident, and the early commentaries offer 7 explanations. Some say that the distinction lies in the fact that in the case of the 3 years, each testimony has halachic ramifications by itself, as if it is discovered that the one using the field is not the owner, he will have to pay the owner for all the produce that he ate during any particular year on the basis of the testimony of the corresponding set of witnesses. Each testimony is therefore an independent, complete matter in that sense. Rav and the Rabbeinu Tam in Sefer Yasher the Rashba. Alternatively, in the case of the 3 years, each set of witnesses testifies concerning all the acquired information about a given year, and consequently the testimony is considered a complete matter. By contrast, in the case of the 2 hairs, each set of witnesses testifies only to a part of the required information about the girl. Yet others suggest that in the case of a field, each set of witnesses testifies that a particular individual has made use of a field as if it were his own. It is merely necessary that this testimony be extended over time for 3 years. By contrast, in the case of the hairs, each testimony by itself indicates that the girl is not of age, which is the opposite of the conclusion that would be reached if testimonies were combined. Rambam Sefer Muhammad Hashem. Therefore, each testimony considers only half a matter. The Mishnah teaches if one stole an animal and stole it on Shabbat, he pays a fourfold or fivefold payment. The Gemara asks, but isn't it taught in the Braita that in this case he is exempt from the fourfold or fivefold payment? Bava Kamma said, when it is taught that in that Braita that he is exempt, this is referring to a case where the purchaser says to the thief, pick off a fig. The only committee dispute the exact legal mechanism of this act of acquisition. Some claim that the taking of a fig constitutes a symbolic exchange between the thief and the purchaser. Others state that the animal was already located on the purchaser's property, and the thief stipulated that the sale would take effect when the purchaser picks one of the figs. That's for being parrots. Be a sale from my fig tree on Shabbat, and through performing this act, your stolen animal shall be acquired by me. Since the act of acquisition of the animal involved the type of Shabbat desecration for which one is liable to receive the death penalty, the thief is exempt from the monetary obligations he would ordinarily incur from this act, either fourfold or fivefold payment to the animal's prior owner. This is according to the principle that one who commits two or more transgressions by means of a single act, both of which would entail punishment, is exempt from the lesser punishment. The sages say, questioning this explanation of the Braita, but since if the purchaser would bring a legal claim against the thief before us, to force him to deliver the animal acquired by means of picking the fig, the court would not say to the thief, go and pay him the animal you owe him, because the thief is liable to receive death penalty for his desecration of Shabbat. This shows that the sale is not a valid sale at all. Therefore, the Braita would not call this exchange a sale, and this interpretation of the Braita cannot be correct. However, Papa said the Braita is discussing a case where the purchaser said to the thief, throw your stolen animal from the public domain into my enclosed courtyard, and your stolen animal will thereby be acquired by me. One can acquire an item if it is placed on his property. In this case, when the thief places the animal on the purchaser's property, he moves it from the public domain into the private domain, which is a desecration of Shabbat that entails the death penalty, consequently exempt from the fourfold or fivefold payment. The Gemara asks, if this is the correct explanation of the Braita, in accordance with whose opinion is this Braita taught, is in accordance with the opinion of Bava Kamma, who says an item in the airspace of a certain area is considered as though it were at rest in that area. Bava Kamma shehuncha damya. One of the primary categories of prohibited labor on Shabbat is transferring an item from the private domain to the public domain and vice versa. This labor consists of removing an item from one of these domains and laying it to rest in the other domain. According to the opinion of Bava Kamma, if an item is thrown from the public domain into a private domain, even if it's not yet come to rest in the private domain, and even if it never comes to rest there at all, but continues onto a different domain, once it has entered the airspace of a private domain, it is considered as if it has landed there. As if the Braita is according to the opinion of the rabbis who hold that an item in the airspace of a certain area is not considered as though it were at rest in that area. Once the animal reaches the airspace of the courtyard of the purchaser's house, he has acquired it. One can acquire items that are in the airspace of his courtyard just like those on the ground, whereas with regard to moving an item from one domain to another on Shabbat, the thief is not liable for Shabbat desecration until it reaches the ground. Let's explain that. Kavan dematya v'chulu. Once it reaches, etc. The halacha principle that one who becomes liable to capital punishment is exempt from monetary payments applies when the two liabilities occur incurred simultaneously. If the monetary liability preceded the liability for capital punishment, there is no exemption from payment. If a thief performs a prohibited act of labor on Shabbat concomitant with his sale of a stolen animal, he is exempt from the fourfold or fivefold payment. An example of this: if a thief says to the purchaser, I am throwing an animal into your courtyard, it will not be acquired by you until landing in your courtyard. Once the animal lands in the courtyard, the one who threw it has transferred an item from one domain to another, which is a Shabbat desecration and a capital offense. Since the acquisition takes effect at the same moment, he is exempt from the fourfold or fivefold payment. Similarly, if the purchaser says to the thief, pick a fig from my fig tree and I will thereby acquire your animal, the thief is exempt from paying the fourfold or fivefold payment, as picking the fig is an act of Shabbat desecration, which one is liable to receive the death penalty, and the sale of the animal occurs at the same moment. Woman Sefer Nazich and Hilch Geneva 3.5 Tor Hushamitra 350. In that case, the acquisition of the animal and the Shabbat desecration are simultaneous. Rava said, actually, it is possible to explain the Bava as Bava Kamma did, that the animal was acquired through the picking of a fig on Shabbat, and the objection raised earlier that this act should not be considered a sale at all is incorrect. This can be demonstrated by the fact that the Torah prohibits one to bring as an offering an animal given as payment to a prostitute for her services rendered, Deuteronomy 23:19. As non asur Torah. If one says to a woman with whom sexual intercourse is prohibited to him, take this item as payment for a sexual act, the item is considered payment to a prostitute and may not be used as an offering. There is no difference in this regard whether the intercourse between the two is forbidden as an ordinary prohibition by Torah law or is a capital offense. An animal given to an unmarried woman who is not related to him or to one's own wife during her menstrual period is as payment for intercourse is not included in this halacha. And this prohibition applies even if the man in question gave in intercourse with his own mother, which is a capital offense. But if she would bring a legal claim before us, demanding the payment of the animal that was agreed upon her as her fee, we would say to him, arise and pay her the animal. The court would not say this, as the monetary liability was occurred simultaneously with the commission of a capital crime. Rather, one must say that even though she brings a legal claim against him demanding the payment of the animal that was agreed upon her as her fee, we do not say to him, go and pay her. Nevertheless, since if he does not give it to her, it is considered payment to a prostitute and cannot be used as an offering. Since if he does give it to her, it's considered payment to a prostitute, it cannot be used as an offering. Here too, in the case of the acquisition of the animal through picking a fig, even though with regard to payment, if the purchaser would bring a legal claim before us against the thief, seeking to force him to deliver the animal, we would not say to him, go pay. And even so, since the thief transfers ownership to the purchaser in this manner, it is considered a valid sale and he is required to pay the fourfold or fivefold payment. Thank you for listening and wish you a very good day. All the best. Bye.